Okay, so continuing, letter 20, this is a portion for Yom Kippur. So, similarly to this discussion of Torah and the commandments, we have the union of the emotive attributes of the lower three worlds, creation, formation, and descent, fused with sovereignty of these worlds. From that fusion, from that union, is created as something from nothing, all the beings of those worlds. So just as we said previously, that the fusion of the emotive attributes and sovereignty of the world of being, of the highest world, as well as the powers of sovereignty of the world itself, creates the souls and angels of the next world, of the world of creation, which are already creations of substance. And this came about through the power of the infinity of God and the beam of God that's vested in sovereignty and in that union of the emotive attributes and sovereignty of God in the world of being. So similarly, this same union in the lower three worlds of the emotive attributes and of the sovereignty results in creations in these worlds. And also, as we're going to say at the end of today, through a glimmer of the infinity of the beam itself. Now, in each of these three worlds, in the divine attributes, the power that's causing this creation to happen is the soul of these divine attributes. In other words, every divine attribute is viewed as a light in a vessel. The light itself, as we've learned, is three levels. The highest level of those three levels of light is like the soul of the light, and that's the divinity of that divine attribute. This is coming from, this level of divinity in all these three lower worlds, is coming from the 10 vessels of sovereignty of the world of being that descend into the divine attributes of all these three lower worlds to be that soul energy, that divinity of the divine attributes of the three lower worlds. And in it, within sovereignty of the world of being, is also present the radiation of the beam of God's infinite light. The light, the radiation of that beam, is similar to its source, to the luminary, to God. And therefore, it can cause creation to be formed, something from nothing. Now, this is vested in the world of being, the highest world, as far as the curtain, the veil. There's a spiritually speaking, a curtain, a veil, that screens off the world of being from the lower three worlds, so that the light of the lower three worlds is completely different from the essence of the godly light in that highest world of being. The radiation from the beam that's in the 10 attributes within sovereignty in the world of being pierces the veil together with the powers of sovereignty and radiates in these vessels of sovereignty that are becoming the soul of all the vessels of all the lower worlds, just as it's in the world of being itself. So this aspect of the illumination of the beam previously radiated within the vessels of the world of being, the highest world. Now it has pierced the veil between the world of being and the lower three worlds. And therefore, as the 30 vessels of sovereignty of the world of being pierce the veil and retain their divine characteristics and become the light and soul of these three lower worlds, this is also true for the ray of the beam that's within them and pierces the veil together with them. So it also is radiating within the light of the soul of the lower three worlds, creating and animating all that populate these lower three worlds. Now, this isn't only true for the ray of the beam that's vested within the vessels of the world of being, but also the beam itself, which is vested in the conclusion and end of the three emotive attributes, the lower three emotive attributes of victory, glory, and foundation of primordial man. The end of the feet of primordial man which concludes all the way in the lowest level of the lowest world, sovereignty of the world of descent. And even there, all the way down to the lowest level of the lowest world, there's a radiation from this beam, from victory, glory, and foundation of primordial man that vests itself in the soul energy of these worlds, which means giving them divinity. So primordial man represents the first divine thought concerning and encompassing all of creation. And the particulars within this thought are the basis of life for all of creation. Within this level, there's two modes of emanation, circles and straightness. Circles is a transcendent mode, and it encompasses all of creation equally. Straightness is an immanent mode that animates creation by permeating each one according to its abilities, according to its rank. So the concluding level of the feat of this manner of straightness of primordial man concludes in the last level of the lowest world, sovereignty of the world of descent. So we're saying here that the radiation of the beam illuminates to this degree, to the lowest level of the lowest world, sovereignty of descent. And we have here, even down to this level, divinity in the lights of the soul of each of the divine attributes. Now, taking this a step further, a radiation from the radiation of the beam of God vests itself not only in the lights of soul of the attributes, but also in the two lower levels of light in the divine attributes of these three lower worlds, and also in the vessels of the divine attributes of these three lower worlds. Now, these vessels we don't view as divinity, but they're also irradiated by a glimmer of the beam. Now, this is not coming from the investment of the beam in the highest world of being, because those only have the ability to invest itself in something called divinity. And we're not calling the vessels of the divine attributes in these lower worlds divinity. But the primordial thought of primordial man causes the beam itself, which means something that's actually transcending the highest world, to irradiate a glimmer of its light within the vessels of these three lower worlds. And, taking this a step further, a radiation of that radiation, of the original radiation, gives life to all beings that are created in all of the three lower worlds, which enables all created beings to be imbued with the divine purpose of their creation, a purpose which is fulfilled through them. And this is which originates in the primordial thought of primordial man, is the animating force of all created beings. So what do we mean by radiation of radiation of radiation? It isn't just semantics, it's very significant. You have the thing, and then the first level is the radiation of the thing. Now, the radiation of the thing is not the same as the thing itself, it's the same nature. So the radiation of the beam is divinity. It's the same essence. Then we took it a step further, and we spoke about a radiation of a radiation. The radiation of the beam. Now, at that point already, it's that much further removed, so it does not have the same essence, but it resembles it in its external manifestation, in its existence. It's similar. So the radiation of the radiation vests itself in the lower soul light of the three lower worlds, because, of course, they're not the same essence as the antecedent divine attributes in the highest world of being, because those are actual divinity. These are not, but they're similar. They have in common the spiritual manifestation of vessels and of light. They're not divinity, but they're not created beings either. Then we take this a step further and we speak of a radiation of a radiation of a radiation. It not only doesn't share the same essence, obviously, it doesn't even share the same existence qualities, the outward manifestation. And that level, the radiation of the radiation of the radiation of the beam, vests itself within all creative beings, all things of all the world. As it says, you gave life to them all, meaning, in essence, the life force is drawn from you, from the infinity of God himself into all creation, by this radiation of the radiation of the radiation of the beam of God's light. Now, all of this is by an extension of the vital force to animate them. And obviously, we're seeing here that there are varying levels. There's how the radiation is in the world of being, then lower than that in the lights of soul, the highest soul of the three lower worlds. Then lower than that in the two lower levels of light and the vessels of the lower worlds, and lower than that in all creative beings. And in all four of those levels, it's different as per the capacity. At the same time, there's another energy coming from primordial man. Because ultimately, the essence of the infinity of God is not subject to space. So it really can't be, ultimately, that light is found in the world of being in one manner and in the lower worlds in a different manner. Because how are these worlds impacting God? So on another level, God is encompassing everything exactly the same as God says in Jeremiah. I fill the heavens and the earth, meaning equally. As it says in Kabbalah, in Zohar, there's no place, there's no spiritual level devoid of him. Meaning even in the physical world, he has to be there the same as everywhere. But this divine light is only present in an encompassing, transcendent fashion, not in an indwelling, but in a field form, in a transcendent. Previously, we spoke about primordial man as not the straightness, but the circles. So this light of the essence of the infinity, that's the same in all of creation, is creating in a very, very indirect way. Even creation, something from nothing, which involves the concealment of the infinite powers of God, is by definition an act of revelation. Expansion is taking place by means of the divine attributes to reveal this concealed power. So that can't result directly from the essence of the infinity of God, because that essence of the infinity of God is completely concealed within creation. So what's causing that to happen is not this essence of God that's equal everywhere, but rather the radiations we were discussing, the radiations from the radiation, from the radiation, from the beam of light. But from the transcendent infinite light of God that encircles all the worlds uniformly, there is a radiation to the inner being through the vessels of these three lower worlds. These vessels, in a sense, are encompassing and transcending the light that's vested inside of them. And by radiating within the vessels, it's endowing them with the power to create something from nothing. We already said that creation of all the beings of each world comes about through the vessels of the divine attributes of those worlds. Their ability to create something from nothing, which truly can only come from the essence of God himself, that encompasses all the world, results from the radiation of that encompassing light that is impacting them. We see here there's actually two qualities at work. We have the radiation of the beam that's affecting them in an indwelling fashion, and we have the infinity of God himself, which is affecting them in a far more concealed and transcendent fashion, but is ultimately giving them the ability to create something from nothing, because that's the power of God. But creation is taking place through the vessels, and since the vessels are finite and diverse, what's going to come when the infinity of God is being expressed within these vessels is creative beings that are numerous and diverse, limited and finite, and taking it a step further, because the divine radiation which is being revealed in them is through letters. As we discussed previously, how creation comes through letters. And letters are even more finite and diverse than the vessels. So surely all that's created by these vessels through the dynamics of the radiation of the being, as well as the transcendent level of God's infinity itself, is ultimately creating beings that are finite and diverse, but all created from God's power of being.